Hey everyone, welcome to my first Angular tutorial video. If you like this video, let me know by giving a like and a subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you'd like me to make more of these. And if you don't like this video, well, you can give me a dislike and bash me in the comments. Today I'm going to show you how you can take advantage of named router outlets and lazy loading, and how you can create a pop-up window that can communicate with the main window. So the example app I'm going to build is going to be very simple. It's going to be a light bulb with a light switch. So let's jump into it. So I created this application using the Angular CLI. When you use the ng new command, it's going to ask if you want to add routing to your project. I said yes, which is why I got this app routing module, which lets me define a set of routes for my app. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a light bulb component and a light switch component. More specifically, I'm going to make these feature modules that can be lazy loaded into the app. So lazy loading just means that we're going to defer the loading of the module until we actually need it. When you lazy load things, it reduces the size of the initial load, and you only have to make a request for that code when you need it. So if you have several different pages in your application, it's more efficient if you only load the stuff you need when you need it. So you get a quicker initial load time. So I'm going to go ahead and create those modules. So I'm going to use the ng module command. I'm going to first make the light bulb module, and I'm going to provide this route parameter. And I'm going to say the route is going to be bulb, and the module that I'm going to lazy load this route into is going to be the app module. So when you use the route parameter, it's actually going to also create a component for you, and it's going to give you a routing module inside of that feature module that you just made. I'll do the same thing with the light switch, and then we'll take a quick peek at it. So the first thing to notice is that in here, I got two new paths, one for the bulb and one for the switch. I'm going to do some reformatting because I am very OCD about this stuff. Whoops. There we go. So if we go to the bulb path, it's going to load the bulb module. If we go to the switch path, it's going to load the switch module. And inside, let's just look at the bulb. We get the bulb component, so all those files that you're used to. We get the bulb module, and we also get this routing module with an empty path that maps to the bulb component. And we have the same thing in the switch. So I'm going to overwrite the default app component page with just a router outlet, so we don't have all that stuff that we might not need. And let's run ng serve and take a look at what we get. So here we go. So if I go to bulb, I get that default light bulb works. And if I go to switch, I should get the switch works. And just to show or kind of explain a little more how the lazy loading works. When I go to the switch endpoint, see I get this switch module as its own JavaScript bundle. And if I go to the bulb path, I get the bulb that loads afterwards as well. So this is going to be important later. But so far, so good. So right now, all I have is just one router outlet. I'm going to change this up a little bit and give this router outlet a name. This one's going to be the bulb outlet. I'm going to have another one for the switch. So now I've got two router outlets. And in here, I'm going to change this a little bit as well. So this, what was previously the bulb path, is now going to render inside of the bulb outlet. And I'm going to change the path to be a parameter, a state parameter. So this is going to say whether the bulb is on or off. So the state will make it so that it can be either on or it can be off. And I'll do the same thing with the switch. State, and the outlet will go to the switch outlet. So now I'm going to save that. And the way these URLs work is I go slash, and then in brackets, I can say switch on, and I should get the light switch component. And if I look at the network tab, you can see that we're only getting the light switch module. If I go to bulb, we're only getting the bulb module, but I can actually load both since I defined both of those router outlets. I can say bulb is on and switch is on. And now we get both the light bulb module and the light switch module. So now I'm going to go ahead and implement the light bulb component. First, I'm just going to, for the bulb, I'm just going to make a div, give it class bulb. And then in the CSS, I'm going to say that class bulb has a width of 100 pixels, a height of 100 pixels, a border radius of 50% to make it round, and a border that looks like 2 pixels, solid black, just so we can see the outline. And I'll give another class to bulb on, and I'll just make the background color yellow. So when the bulb is on, the color will be yellow. And for the light switch, I'm just going to make a button with the text switch. So now if we come back here, you can see we've got our light bulb and the light switch. The switch doesn't do anything. The state isn't reflected, so I could say that the bulb is off and the switch is off, but nothing changes. So the next thing will be to get reference to this bulb state in the bulb component. So since this is a path parameter, I can get reference to the state with the Angular activated route through dependency injection. And I'm going to define a class member variable called state, and it's going to be an observable of a string, which will be this dot route and the params, which is an observable, and I'm going to pipe that and map the key value pair params just to the state parameter. And I'm going to do the exact same thing in the light switch component. So now I've got reference in my class, but it still doesn't do anything. I'm going to switch the bulb here to on and here to on, but that state still isn't doing anything. So we've got reference to the state in the light bulb component. Now let's use it. So I'm going to say that this div will have the class bulb on if state, or resolve the observable, is equal to on. So now, since we are saying that the bulb is on, the background color is yellow. If I change this to off, it's now not yellow. So the state of the bulb is determined by the URL that we provide. So the next thing to do is to make it so that the light switch can actually change the state of the bulb. And to do that, we're going to need to change the path that we're currently navigated to. So we can do that using the Angular router. And I'm going to define a function that'll be called flip switch, which is going to have to look at the state and then set the state to the opposite state. So since the state is an observable, we're going to have to define a observable pipeline. I'm going to subscribe to it. We only want to take one because we only want to get the current state whenever you click the button. We don't want this to keep firing every time the state changes. You only want it to fire when the button is clicked. So I'm going to take one, and then I'm going to, what am I going to do here? I'm going to define the actual function that does the state change somewhere else. And I'll say this dot do flip switch, which I'm going to have to implement here now. And we'll do flip switch, and we'll give it the whatever the current state is. So I'll say private do flip switch, which takes a state. We'll set the state to the opposite. So if the state is on, we'll set it to off. Otherwise, we'll set it to on. And we need to change this parameter here off to on. So we can do that with the router. So we can do this .router.navigate to a new URL. The navigate function takes a list of commands. So this command is going to be one that just navigates the outlets. And I'm going to say the bulb outlet is going to go to the new state, and the switch outlet is going to go to the new state. And the last thing to do is to actually bind that the light switch click action to the flip switch function. So now, if I've done everything right, clicking this button, first it changed both of them to off because I had that in an invalid state. Now it's changing the URL, which is reflected in the components. Good. So far so good. So now our state is 100% maintained in the path. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that I can actually open this switch button in a pop-up window. And when I click it, it's going to change the bulb in this main window that opened it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change what happens when the light bulb component is initialized. So in the ng-on-init function, I'm going to check the state like we did before. So I'm going to take one, and then with that state, that initial state, whoops, I'm going to call some function that I'm about to define. Open pop-up window with the new state. Subscribed, actually commit that. And I'll define the open pop-up window function that takes a state. And I'm going to use just the vanilla JavaScript window.open. And for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm not going to worry too much about making this environment friendly, but I'll say localhost 4200. I'm just going to open a new pop-up window that only renders the switch. I should make this a string template. And I'll say that the switch is going to be the state. Oh, and I'm going to have to switch is the state. The next argument is the target. So blank. I'm not exactly sure why it's just underscore blank, but that opens it in a new window or a new tab anyway. And if I actually specify some properties of the new window that's going to be opened, it's going to open it in a pop-up instead of opening it in a new tab. So I'll say height is 100 pixels. Well, this is a comma separated list. Width equals, sorry, I got my syntax wrong. Width equals, I'll say 300 pixels, and that should be good. Okay, so now that I've got a new pop-up, let's test it out. Oh, and it looks like it automatically did it for me. So there we go, I've got a new. It's opening a pop-up, but it's not really working the way I want it to yet. But that's okay. So the next thing I need to do is in my light switch component, I need to do something a little bit different when I flip the switch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if the window has an opener. So was this window opened from, I'm going to say if not, because this is what I'm going to do if the window does not have an opener. So if the window was not programmatically opened, then I'm just going to do what I did before. Otherwise, if it was, then I'm going to take this out here because this is going to be consistent. I'm going to do this navigation again, but I'm going to only do it for the switch. So I don't want a bulb. And I'm going to use window.postMessage, actually window.opener.postMessage. So I'm going to post a message to the window that opened this window, and we're going to send the state. And the second argument is the target origin. I'm just going to give it star because I don't care about the security. For this application anyway. So now I should be able to post a message to the parent window, and I will have my light bulb in my parent window. So when I open the pop-up window, I'm going to also start listening for messages coming from that pop-up. So I'm going to say window.addEventListener. Type is going to be message, and it takes a callback, an event, which will be a message event. And just to be kind of careful, I'm going to actually take a peek at the event first. I'm going to make sure the event has data and that the data is a valid state. So it's either the string on or off. So I guess I'll do that with a regular expression. So I'll say if it matches on or off. Then I'll proceed and actually use it. So I'll do this.rotor, which I don't have yet. Rotor.navigate again. And I'm going to pass it outlets bulb is event.data, which should be that new state that I've already checked to make sure that it's valid. I'm just going to do it all fresh. So I'm going to only render the bulb this time. So I'm going to get rid of this switch on here. We'll see what happens. So open it. It opens a new pop-up window. And when I click switch, that message is being sent to the parent window, and I'm able to toggle the light bulb on and off from a separate window. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting the like button and leaving a comment below. Stay safe, everyone, and I'll catch you in the next video.